Hi, this is Dan Ellis from the Godless Revolution podcast, and I took a left at the Valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists, you know. We don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith in unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
I'm not sure where more for candies. Well, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I think Orion's belt is a waste of stars. I know, it's not a great joke. I'm going to give it a 3-star.
A dad joke within a dad joke.
Exactly. Joining me as usual is a team whose candy bag needed to be checked. In a corn maze, she felt like she was being stalked. It was eerie. Nancy.
Ooh. Oh, another one.
Yeah.
And if she had a DeLorean, she'd drive from time to time. Kirsten.
I would.
Ladies, welcome back.
Yeah,
Slow claps.
A new month. Where did October go? It was like you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning and the whole month is gone.
Where did the year go?
I know.
Yeah.
It's been one hell of a year.
Yeah.
As my father in his wisdom used to say, life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it spins. It's quite an apt analogy, actually.
It is.
Life can be pretty shitty. Right. So today we'll be talking to Lord Bmillzebub, and we'll be talking about horror houses, not whorehouses. Don't
Good
get so
job.
excited. Horror houses. But first, let's do a bit of chit chat. Did you? I want to talk really quickly because we didn't have a chance to do that. We just had the federal election in Canada.
Yes, we did.
The Liberals were re-elected with a minority government. Any thoughts? I'm
just glad Scheer didn't win.
Yeah. I'm just.
Okay, yeah.
That's exactly it. I'm just glad.
I mean, I'm not the political one of the group, so
You're not?
I left that half at home.
I'm not all that political either, but I mean, in terms of Canadian politics, but
Well-
that was the one thing I think all of us, said, as long as he doesn't win,
Yeah, exactly.
it can't be that bad.
It's not the result I was kind of hoping. I was kind of hoping that this year we would actually finally get out of the red and blue dance that's been going on forever. And it has not been the case. I was kind of hoping the NDP would push through, or the Greens, or a bit of both. That did not happen. So it seems we're still doomed to this, although we have several parties, but it's still like 2 parties, really.
Yeah.
I think we have too much influence from the Americans. It could have been way worse. I don't like politics as much as the next guy either, but I understand its power, so therefore that's why we talk about it. So Prime Minister Justin Trudeau goes on for another mandate. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen to Scheer, because a lot of people have been saying, with the scandals that have been hitting the Prime Minister, this was like shooting in an empty net. For a hockey analogy, very Canadian. And he missed. He really, really missed. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen to that guy if he's going to stay leader. I think the mistake he made as a conservative is that he went with the American way of conservatism, social conservatism. Canadians are not social conservatives. They can have some conservative values, but it's usually in regards to fiscal spending and stuff like that. Social conservatism does not really have a place in Canada, not a big one, and I think they made it look bigger than it really was. So I think a lot of people decide to vote conservative just because a lot of Canadians do that, right? They vote against somebody. You don't vote for somebody.
Yeah.
I think a lot of conservative votes were against the current Prime Minister. Because if you actually went down and examined the platform of the Conservatives, it was actually horrendous. It was really, really horrible. You talk about anti-abortion stuff and stuff that's been settled in this country for a long time now. So hopefully, I hate to say this, but hopefully it'll bring a better player next time, because this guy was really shitty.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm saying that as a guy who's not a conservative. So
yeah, we're Canadians. We're going to deal with it. It didn't turn our world upside down. We don't have, a complete an adjustment in terms of overall politics. I think things will go on pretty much as normal and as usual. And thank goodness that's where Canada needs to be.
Yeah.
We're the voice of reason. And
I'm just glad we didn't go the way the U.S. or the U.K. with some idiot at the helm.
Yeah, I like the fact that I can still get married to Christina. That's a really nice fact, and it's still viewed as like being valid and legal because
I know. We've had legalized marriage like that for almost 20 years now, and the sky has not fallen. Oh my God, who would have thought? Anyway, speaking of controversy and politics, did you guys hear that the province of Quebec has moved to give new immigrants a provincial value test?
Really?
Yeah, so this is interesting. This is about to start January 1st, 2020. It only pertains to the regular immigrants, refugees, and those that are coming through family reunification programs are exempt. The promise, this is a promise from the Coalition Avenir Québec. It was an electoral promise. The Premier François Legault says it will be similar to the test that for Canadian citizenship. So this is essentially a test that... let me give you an example. Years ago, the Dutch, for example, came up with which I thought at the time was a brilliant idea, even though a lot of people thought it was controversial and should not exist. Immigrants from very different parts of the world. Let's say, for example, here let's say from the Middle East, that decided to go to Holland. What they would do is they would have this old VHS tape. Shows you how long ago it was, right? And they would play this tape, and you would see life in Holland as it is every day. But you would see things like a gay couple kissing or, women walking without a hijab and stuff like that. And they would basically say, look, if watching this video offended you, you need to really reconsider your application because this is life in the country. Okay. And this is something you can't bear. At the time, I thought this was brilliant. But people thought it was basically a way to discriminate against new immigrants.
When were they shown the video? At what point?
When they were making the application.
That's what I was hoping. I didn't know when along the.
I can see the point kind of a little bit as to why they would do that. Like, if you're offended by this, do you really want to come here?
Should we? Is this something? And this is one of the rare instances where I actually agree with people that are conservative. This is actually something I think we should do for all immigrants. Life in Canada is a certain way, and if you come here and you think you're going to find little Italy here or little Greece here or even another version of the United States, no, this is not the country for you. And if this offends you somehow, you really need to reconsider moving to this country.
Well, do you think that ought to hold true regardless of the country that you want to immigrate to? I mean, if we go to China, if we go to Portugal, if we go to South Africa, it's totally different. And I don't know how many people are prepared for I don't want to say culture shock, but the cultural differences and whether or not we're going to be comfortable in that life or not.
And I think part of it too might be like, I know you were saying immigrants, but like why you're going there can go into that as well. But you were specifically talking about the immigrants.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because you can flip this around if you wanted to, right? Because if, for example, they were to do this in, let's say, Saudi Arabia, and I'm immigrating to Saudi Arabia and say, here in Saudi Arabia, our women are not. The women are wearing the veil. And if you're not accepting that, then maybe you should reconsider moving here. So this can go both ways.
Oh, absolutely.
That's exactly it.
So I think that's kind of the fairness in that. I think it's not just a one-way ticket.
Yeah, because as much as, a new immigrant might want to come here and, for lack of a better word here, impose their values onto the Canadian public, you have to remember that sometimes us, as people in the West, go out there and try to impose our views as well on others' cultures. But I think there are some points there, but sometimes, this is where you get frictions between the cultures, right?
Yeah.
Universal human rights, should they be respected by absolutely every culture? We have a tendency to say so, but another culture might say no, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, an interesting debate, but for some other time. Here in BC is moving to introduce permanent daylight time.
Yes,
I know.
We were talking
supposedly,
about
this is going to be the last. I think the government is not coordinating, but I think they're talking to California and Oregon.
Yeah, because they have to all do it at the same time.
Yeah. So this weekend where clocks are falling back, don't forget to do that.
So how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, personally, I mean, I understand that the whole reason it was done, and it's not because of what you think. People used to think it was done because of agricultural means, and that's not the reason. It was actually a war measure, because when the time would change, and you didn't want the lights on, because in the middle of the night they're easy targets, right? You didn't want the lights on early in the morning, easy targets for the planes to bomb. So that was the whole reason for daylight changing time. With the advent of computers and international global trade, I don't think it's going to make that huge of an impact. It's going to be a bit different, but are we even going to notice in our everyday life?
Well, I mean, if you look at it this way, like my phone, for example, I don't have to change the time on it. It automatically does it. So it's like, oh, yeah, no, okay. And
let's face it, when it comes to spring, you really hate to lose that 1 hour, don't you? We all do.
Yeah, I do.
Fall, it's nice. You get to gain an hour, but in the spring,
I just hate the dark at 4:30.
Yeah,
because I don't drive at night anymore, and so it's like, unless I get a ride or go someplace with a group, I'm essentially help. I'm in my own horror house. I can't get out.
Does that mean now it's going to be dark at 5:30? That's what I'm kind of wondering here. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's because Nancy does all.
Oh well, I'm a good
Nancy
daylight savings.
Does
type.
all her best work at night.
Yes. So. I mean, either way, I'm not one of those people that's super bothered by that 1 hour difference, losing or gaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we said, California, Washington, and Oregon were also proposed the same move, but they are waiting for Congress approval, so that could take some time. Mm-hmm. No date is set for the bill to take hold yet. In other news, there's new research that says that measles, which has been making a resurgence because of the anti-vax movement, might have long-term damage to the immune system, which is worse than we thought. Because what they're saying here is it actually might be leaving you vulnerable long after the initial bout. The two studies of unvaccinated kids in an Orthodox Protestant community in the Netherlands points to the measles, quote, wiping out the body's immune memory.
Ooh.
So in other words, if you get... the disease would kind of affect the body in a way that the body doesn't remember fighting off other diseases as well. So it leaves your immune system weakened. But let's say, for example, you were vaccinated for chickenpox. According to these studies, it's pointing out that the measles might be affecting the body's response to chickenpox as well.
Oh, no.
So you would need to get re-vaccinated for those others as well.
Because it's kind of like erasing that memory of like how to deal with it.
Yes.
In a way.
The body doesn't remember how to deal with it. Anymore. Yeah. So apparently this is apparently the disease has been can eliminate 11 to 73% of antibodies in the body. So this is Professor Stephen Lodge. This is from Harvard Medical. He says it's a much greater threat than we thought. 7 million people each year are affected by measles, and it causes over 100,000 deaths. He calls it this immune amnesia. Might mean that children may need to be revaccinated for other benign diseases. So measles apparently is a much greater threat than we expected at first.
Makes me happy I have not had it.
Yeah, and of course I can hear right off the bat the conspiracy theorist here.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's fine. They're just doing this to scare you so you can be vaccinated some more. I can just hear it. Like you really want to be revaccinated for rubella for no freaking reason, right?
No.
Yeah. It's like...
I don't like being stabbed in the arm.
No.
Thank you very much.
Nancy stabs you very gently and very slowly. She looks at you directly in the eyes, too, when she does that.
Sure, gently and slowly is better.
Well,
I mean, gently, yes, but slowly? I don't know.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies. My dear Nancy, you got a top 10 for us?
Yeah, a weird one.
Okay, weird
one.
Well,
they're all weird in their own way.
Well, Kevin's in a weird mood.
This is the top 10 astonishing miracles. But I'm not going to do 10 of them because they're kind of long. I'm going to do 5.
Oh, hold
okay.
on.
So this is the top 5.
Like miracles just in one religion, or is that...
Yes. No, these are the top documented, mostly Catholic, miracles that I think are so interesting when you think about when they occurred, where they occurred, and to how many people. Because, miracles have to go through a certain process in order to be considered a miracle. Anyway, these are really fun. They're weird and they're really fun because of the nature of them. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and do the miracle.
Bring it on.
Yeah, there we go. All right, the first one, a miracle, is of Joseph of Cupertino. Who knew? 1603 to 1663. So Joseph of Cupertino is an Italian saint. He was said to have been remarkably unclever, which I love that. But prone to, here we go, miraculous levitation, intense ecstatic visions that left him gaping, and in turn he's recognized as the patron saint of air travelers, aviators, people with a mental handicap, and weak students.
I was about to say, I'm so glad you didn't look at me when you said unclever, but you said weak student and you turned right at me right off the bat.
Well, and it's not easy to turn, but it was, shows you how intentional that turn was. Anyway, he was canonized in 1767. So on October 4th in 1630, the town of Cupertino, and the California town was named after him, held a procession on the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. So Joseph was assisting in the procession when he suddenly soared into the sky, as people do, where he remained hovering over the crowd.
Sure, it wasn't like a tornado?
Well, I don't know. It depends. There's so many things that I'm just going to go back to this. Thank you. Anyway, when he descended and realized what had happened, he became so embarrassed that he fled into his mother's house and hid. So that was the first of many flights.
Hold on here. How come he just flew and the guy's embarrassed?
He flew.
Oh my God, I can't believe you guys saw it.
And then he got the nickname the Flying Saint.
I can find an analogy here. Has anyone seen that video of the gymnast and the springboard when it breaks?
No, not necessarily. I don't think.
Okay, well, you know the springboards that they use?
Yeah.
Well, they go to use it, except it breaks and sends them a lot further than intended.
If only they'd had these in the 1600s, we would have had a totally different story.
Only have it now.
Anyway, Joseph's most famous flight allegedly occurred during a papal audience before Pope Urban VIII. When he bent down to kiss the Pope's feet, he was suddenly filled with reverence for the Pope and was lifted up into the air. He experienced ecstasies and flights witnessed by thousands. That intrigues you. Witnessed by thousands. Anyway, during the last Mass, which was on the Feast of Assumption in 1663, so the headquarters of Apple and so forth are in Cupertino, which was named after the saint. But that's what's intriguing, is that he was made a saint because all of these flights were witnessed by thousands. What kind of mass visions were these people?
Well, first of all, we can extrapolate from what you said, that he was in ecstasy and peace and all that he wasn't flying United. We know that right off the bat, right?
Yeah. Anyway, it would have been fun to have been one of the thousands to see him, as you say, a small tornado.
That's like that letter from Paul saying, Jesus was witnessed by 500 people. Right? It's the same stupid thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was the 1600s. It could have been 10 people, and by the time, finally got... Okay, so here we go. Number 4, Tilma of Juan Diego. Saint Juan Diego was an indigenous Mexican who reported an apparition of the Virgin Mary as Our Lady of Guadalupe in 1531. He had a significant impact on the spread of the Catholic faith in Mexico, which is really interesting. Anyway, according to Juan Diego, he returned home that night to his uncle Juan Bernardino's house and discovered him seriously ill. The next morning, Juan Diego decided not to go back to meet with the apparition, but to find a priest who could administer the last rites to his dying uncle. Can you imagine deciding whether to go see an apparition or help your uncle? Anybody that has to worry about that, it's got some serious problems. Anyway, when he tried to skirt around this particular hill, in case he decided to go see the lady intercepted him, assured him his uncle wouldn't die, and asked him to climb the hill and gather the flowers he found there. This is in December when normally nothing blooms, but off he went. He found the roses from the region in Castile in Spain. And then the lady, the apparition, rearranged the roses carefully inside his tilma, which is like a cape or an apron where they could carry things. Anyway, and she told Juan Diego, don't open this tilma before anyone but the bishop. And you notice the poor uncle is still home dying, and this guy is getting further and further into these apparitions. Anyway, when Juan Diego unfolded the tilma before the bishop, the roses cascaded from his tilma, and an icon of Our Lady Guadalupe was miraculously impressed on the cloth, bringing the bishop to his knees. So the bishop acknowledged the miracle within 2 weeks, ordered a shrine to be built where the Virgin Mary had appeared, and the original tilma is on display in Guadalupe and is one of the most frequently visited pilgrimage sites in the world. And no one ever knows what happened to the poor uncle. I'm worried about the uncle.
Yes.
Anyway, that's kind of interesting that the tilma is still part of. But anyway, it was the apparition and the roses. That's kind of a sweet story, except for who.
It's a nice little bit of flair.
Okay. The next one is Padre Pio. He was in 1887 to 1968. So he lived quite a long time. Anyway, Francesco Forgione, later known as Padre Pio, was canonized as Saint Pio, and I'm going to murder this name, Pietrelcina. He was an Italian Roman Catholic Capuchin priest who is venerated as a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. Anyway, he became famous for his stigmata. Based on his correspondence, even early in his priesthood, he experienced less obvious indications of visible stigmata for which he would later become famous. Though he would have preferred to suffer in secret, by early 1919, news about the stigmatic friar began to spread in the secular world. His wounds were examined by many people, including physicians. People who had started rebuilding their lives after World War I began to see him as a symbol of hope. I have no idea why. Those close to him attest that he began to manifest several spiritual gifts, including the gifts of healing, bilocation. I have no idea what bilocation. Do you know what bilocation? I forgot to look that up.
I do not.
Bilocation.
Yeah. Levitation, prophecy, miracles, extraordinary absence from both sleep and nourishment. One account says that he actually subsisted for 20 days with only the Eucharist without any other nourishment. I mean, these stories just get
bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's like the game of telephone, I guess. Anyway, and also he could read hearts. He had the gift of tongues, gift of conversions, and the gift of conversions. His body is now on display in San Giovanni Rotondo.
Wasn't there an incident a couple of years ago where people were seeing water from the statue of Padre Pio and they were drinking it, but it turns out to be like some sewer had broken and something like that. Yeah. Bilocation, by the way, is the state of being or the ability to be in two places at the same time.
Oh yeah. Oh good. Thanks.
So yeah.
All right. We'll skip to the first one, which is the most famous miracle. Anybody remember any stories of knowing what the
most famous miracle, the Catholic miracle, is how they managed to still in 2020 have over 1 billion people believing this crap. That's the most famous miracle.
I know. Surprisingly, it wasn't in this article.
I know.
I don't know. You got any idea?
No.
I bet you.
Hold on. The three children and the what's it called? The revelation of
Our Lady of Fatima.
Yes, Fatima. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think almost everybody knows that. And anyway, another word for that was the miracle of the sun. So this is an alleged miraculous event witnessed, and this floored me. It was witnessed supposedly by as many as 100,000 people on the 13th of October 1917 in the fields near Fatima, Portugal. Those in attendance had assembled to observe what the Portuguese secular newspapers had been ridiculing for months as the absurd claim of 3 shepherd children, good one, Kevin, that a miracle was going to occur at high noon on this particular site. So according to many witness statements, after a downfall of rain, the dark clouds broke, the sun came out, and it was said to be significantly less bright. But there were multicolored lights across the landscape. It was supposed to be, a show of the weather and the light after the rain. And then the sun, supposedly, people said that the sun actually careened toward the earth in a zigzag pattern, frightening a lot of people who thought that was the end of the world. And some witnesses reported that their wet clothes from the rain became suddenly and completely dry. So estimates of the number of witnesses range from 30,000 to 40,000, according to some of the newspaper. And some of the professors of natural science were there, and they supposedly saw the sun careening. So the miracle was attributed by believers to Our Lady of Fatima, and the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary had come to the shepherd children a little earlier and having been predicted by the children. So the children reported that the lady had promised them that on the 13th of October, during this zigzag sun show, reveal her identity to them and provide a miracle so that everybody would believe. So the zigzagging of the sun was officially accepted as a miracle by the Roman Catholic Church in 1930.
I mean, honestly, if I saw the sun zigzagging towards Earth, I'd be terrified too.
Well,
yeah.
The question is how did 100,000 people, or whatever the amount is, come to see this mass hallucination? I mean, because it has to be that.
That's the question.
It has to be that, right? Did somebody look up in the sky and say, oh my God, the sun is... Because I believe they call it the sun dancing. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the sun is dancing. And everybody just turned and all of a sudden saw what they thought they saw in their mind? I mean, I'd be curious to have an expert opinion on how mass hallucinations happen. Because... it's imposing. It's an imposing number. When you say 100,000 people, you think, oh my God, there can't be that many idiots.
I mean, were they people that just thought, well, if I say I didn't see it, people are going to, I'm not a believer, and so I better, oh yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah. You see, and the same thing could be attested for just about every miracle. Even Muhammad splitting the moon in two, it had to be something like that too, right? It'd be really curious to
actually look into it.
Yeah, to look into that.
Oh, I'm sure there are books on mass hallucinations and crowd, apparitions and things like that.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's kind of interesting.
Well, thank you, my dear. That was very, very interesting.
Different.
Yes. My dear Kirsten, you have another brilliant moment for us?
I do.
Brought to you by religion.
This one's a little different. It's a little bit less crazy than normal.
Oh,
we like crazy.
I know, but this one, it's kind of makes me look at people and be like, But we'll see. There will be discussion after, I'm sure. So, Noor Alexandria Abu Karam, a high school student from Ohio, was told she was disqualified from a cross-country race on account of her wearing a hijab.
Okay.
The Islamic head covering apparently violated the strict uniform rules set forth by the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and because her coach hadn't applied for a waiver, an official said her time wouldn't be counted.
I'm not exactly sure how her hijab really...
Why was the hijab considered a non...
it wasn't
standard or whatever.
It doesn't say in the article what the rules were, but it was outside the rules.
But see, these rules are met. The certain code for the uniform, if you can call it that, for the sport, is met in a way so you have an equal playing field.
Yes.
You can have an article of clothing that give you an advantage over other... but wearing a hijab doesn't really do that.
And that's kind of where this comes in. And not only that, they didn't say anything before the race. She ran the whole race and only found out afterwards that her time was disqualified.
Yeah, that sounds like discrimination against her too at the same time.
That's like really
that's why I said this is a little different, because it's not so much discriminating against students because of their religion, but requiring them to do these extra steps because of that. because there's this waiver that her coach was supposed to fill out, and it has now since been filled out so she can take part in other races. But the hijab doesn't give her any sort of extra edge.
No, exactly, right. There's no edge to it.
And I mean, I can see the waiver being a point for, like, if there was something to get, like, would be part of it. But this just seems really silly and unnecessary.
It's really incompetence, that things went that far and no one took care of the paperwork or asked about it, or the officials didn't come over and say something before. I mean, and this poor girl, who trained, who was ready to do this, and her heart was probably broken. I mean, I can only imagine how she felt.
There is a quote. She said that she was totally humiliated.
Sure.
And she says, "I felt like a clown. I'm running this race and I have been disqualified and everyone knows it except for me."
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those.
It's stupid.
As much as I don't like the idea of women wearing a hijab, this one you got to give it to her. I mean, she's.
I definitely feel for her in this one. That's why I said this was a little different and kind of looking at a different side of things as I do from time to time. It's
absolutely.
This seems like a really unnecessary thing that they have, and it does kind of seem like they're making them do these extra.
This should have been cleared before she even got.
Yeah, and I know
before that team ever made it to that level, whatever.
It should have, but in the fact that it hasn't, then what do you do then? You just give her the. I'm sorry, maybe I missed the part. Did she actually win a medal, or did she?
For this race, it didn't say anything.
She was disqualified, but she actually was one of the winners, or wrong?
It does not say. Okay. Like her time was just not counted. I know since that race she has applied for and received the waiver in time for postseason races, but
yeah, it would be even a worse story if she had come in first or something like that. Right?
Yeah, because that would have been like. What the hell?
Exactly.
A spokesman for the OSHAA said that they were looking at the specific uniform regulation and to potentially modify it so that the religious headwear does not require a waiver. So like something like this. And it wasn't like the full hijab. It was, the athletic ones that like Nike and that will do.
Well, I'm not exactly sure about the athletic ones. It looks
like it's a material that looks like it's more designed to deal with like sweat wicking and stuff like that. So it's still like the covering.
It's like a close hoodie.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's a gray zone, isn't it? I mean,
it really is. But like the world is not black and white. And I just wanted to look at this and be like, is that really? It just seems silly to me to have that waiver. And it seems very much like not really having an equal playing field because that's not.
Although I must admit, I'm kind of proud of ourselves because right off the bat, I mean, we do an atheist show.
Yeah.
And we can even say, well, I'm anti-religious in many ways.
Yeah.
Yet at this point in this story, we're actually defending her and her right to actually wear this. Which kind of goes against our primal instinct of being atheist, I guess. But in this case, she's absolutely correct.
Like the way I look at it is, I don't necessarily like religion and things like that. But in this case, like if that's her choice to wear it and she wants to wear it, it seems silly that they would disqualify all of her hard work after she's run the race on something that is kind of silly.
Yeah, It is very silly.
No, I'm 100% on her side.
What does the audience think? You let us know. Send us an email at left@valley@outlook.com. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten. That was
welcome.
Fun. That's all you have for us today?
That is. I figured there was going to be a little discussion on that one. So
that's a good one.
It's a good little discussion. All right, let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Lord Bmillzebub. And we'll be talking about horror houses.
Say that 5 times slowly, 10 times quickly.
I'll never live that down, will I? All right, we'll be right back.
What's up, heathens? I'm the Godless Engineer, and it would be great if you could join me on my YouTube channel. Over there, we post videos every day. On Mondays, we normally post a response video of some kind. Tuesdays, we post our daily Bible podcast that I record with KC. Wednesdays, we read comments. Thursdays and Fridays is conspiracy theory and flat earth stuff. And we have a new segment that runs Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays that is Today I Learned from KC.
Hi, y'all.
So please join us over on the YouTube channel Godless Engineer, where we always stand up and use our voice.
I'm Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.
Who thinks the world was created by a man in a cloud in 6 days who then needed to rest. I love that. He's so powerful he can create the universe, but then he's pooped. I mean, how can we have the same brain?
I'm sorry to say we don't have the same brain. I mean, there's a great variation. One of the main principles of the Darwinian theory is plenty of variation for natural selection to work on. And there's sure enough plenty of variation in brain power. All the way from Einstein on the one hand to Sarah Palin at the other.
Well, coming up on the show today, we have Bob Miller, a.k.a. Lord Bmillzebub. He's a YouTuber, and he's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. My dear Lord Bmillzebub, thank you so much for joining us at Left of the Valley.
I think you're massively overestimating my sense of style and ability to dance, but it's nice to be here.
No, that's actually a prerequisite to come on the show.
Well, I'm screwed.
Oh man! For those of our audience that might not have seen your channel there, maybe you'd be so kind to explain to us who you are and what you're doing out there. I'm Bmillzebub, and actually, you've done a fantastic job pronouncing it. Much better than most the first few times. Woohoo!
I make YouTube content usually twice a week, but I've been feeling a little fatigued lately by all the live streams I've been doing. So I've cut it back to one video a week. But mostly I make atheist-based content. More specifically, I tend to go after the Catholic Church because that's my experience. I was raised Catholic. I consider it to be the flagship show on my channel is a monthly show I do called Criticisms of the Catholic Church, where I break out my catechism of the Catholic Church, pick a doctrine, and tear it apart.
Going after the Catholic Church, is that like low-hanging fruit?
Well, you'd think that, but it's one of the largest religious institutions, one of the wealthiest in the world. It holds a lot of power, so low-hanging fruit maybe, but it's
somebody's got to
necessary.
Somebody's got to pick that fruit.
Yeah.
All right, so today we'll be talking about, now the girls have been mocking me for this. Let me be precise here. Horror houses.
Good job, Kevin.
Well done.
And not whore houses, which is also a fascinating subject. But the first one today, because we'll have to bring back Bud there for the other show when we do whore houses. But today we're just doing horror houses.
Yep.
All right, hold on a sec. Corey just walked in. Kevin, future Kevin, edit this. Oh boy. Let's let her finish her thing here so we don't have all that background noise.
Alright.
That's okay, take your coat off. We're paying this guy by the minute. That look.
How come I'm not getting paid?
This is community service for you.
What did I do?
Why is the dog barking?
She agrees with me.
Max wants to bark now. Oh, jeez. Poor Bud. Well, that was a great show, wasn't it? We were so professional. You can tell.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay,
That's
Kevin's
about
got
my level of professionalism, honestly.
That's okay. Kevin's going to have fun editing this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, boy. That's okay. Take a. I can hear everything. The keys clanging, the coat swinging. Poor thing.
Sorry, I was just noticing that you don't have your usual mic.
I know, right?
No, I noticed that because
I've got Nancy's mic.
I'm like,
wait a minute.
Yeah, no, I know that because I realized he had changed.
I see, but Ben, and the thing is that I usually have a condenser mic for me, but the girls have been complaining for years now that you hear me breathing like Darth Vader in it. So I decided to switch to mics today, so maybe they don't hear me so much breathing. All right. All right, let's move on. That was great. Okay, so today we were talking about horror houses, which is a U.S. phenomenon that is trying to make its way up here to Canada. So maybe you'd be so kind, Bud, to explain to us, or my dear Lord Bmillzebub, to explain to us what is a horror house.
All right, so they actually go by a couple of different names down here. It's either horror house. The one I went to called itself a judgment house, but I think the most commonly used name for it might be hell house. And the concept, as far as I understand it, is geared towards children, like fairly young kids, someone you wouldn't let watch a R-rated movie, all the way up to teenagers. And what they tend to do is some get right into it, and just get straight into the fire and brimstone punishment of it. But the one I went to actually used a narrative, which I'm sure you'll want to get into later. And you go further or deeper and deeper into the bowels of hell, and everything's getting worse and worse as you go. But yeah, the main point is to drive in the wages of sin is hell, and hell is somehow an eternal punishment is deserving of finite crimes.
So instead of making like a haunted house with spooky ghosts and goblins, basically they're making you or the person go through what their interpretation of a journey through the Christian hell?
Yeah, basically it's like Dante's Inferno, but without the literary talent behind it.
Sure, because every young child deserves to be traumatized every now and then, right?
Of course.
Definitely.
So in these horror houses of 2019, did they get to meet like Donald Trump? You get some like lower levels of hell. He's got to be there somewhere, right?
Oh, but see, you'd think that, but down here, evangelicals think that Donald Trump's going to be standing right there with Jesus. So.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he's got a vacation home in hell somewhere. I've been to Trump Tower. I've seen those bed bugs.
Damn.
So they're are they targeting younger and younger kids, or you said they're targeting mostly teenagers? And what do these quote unquote kids get to see once they're in there?
Well. It kind of depends on the judgment house you go to. The one I went to was actually pretty tame, but that's, mostly because this is a fairly small town, so there's a low budget. But there are some in wealthier areas. I think there was actually like a documentary movie made about it called Hell House, where they get real theatrical, and they spend money on effects and all that, but the basic premise is basically to put the fear of God into younger audiences, or any audience really. And then
at the end of the show, they essentially invite them for a call to Jesus, I guess, for them to step up and accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior.
Yeah, that's generally the call to action. It's very similar to a chick tract.
Yeah, you might have to explain, because I did not grow up with chick tract up here in Canada. I don't know if you guys know. What about you? Well, Nancy, you grew up.
No, I haven't.
You grew up in ancient Egypt. That's not the same. But you might have to explain the whole chick tract for a Canadian audience.
Chick tracts. Okay, so they're these little tiny pamphlets, like a 3x2 pamphlet. They're not very big at all. And they're these shitty cartoon, like the funny papers, but not funny.
Kind of like Ziggy.
Yeah, exactly like Ziggy. It starts out, with someone going, like, dying or something like that and going to hell because, of course. And at the end, there's this call to come to Jesus. And, yeah, honestly, I didn't grow up with them either. I didn't know Chick tracts were a thing until I was watching The Bible Reloaded one day.
So it's essentially a condensed sermon in cartoon form.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
But less interesting.
So, from what you've seen down there in the U.S., do you think that a lot of kids fall for these horror houses?
Of course they do. It's, at least the younger ones do. Because at younger ages, you tend to believe what you're told by grown-ups. And, while it's mostly, from the house I went to, kids doing the acting, which I thought was disturbing. The show is run by adults. It's written by adults, and the guided tours through the house are by adults. So you have all these grown-ups that are actually running the show and directing it towards kids. So yeah, like the younger kids, I definitely think just eat it up because, well, a grown-up said it's true, so it must be. Teenagers might be a little more skeptical, and then there are people like me who were just muttering bullshit under their breath the whole time.
It must be interesting as an adult. Don't get me wrong. Even myself as an adult, sometimes I have some malicious fun scaring kids here and there. Playfully, of course. Don't give me that look, Kirsten. I said playfully. She's giving me that wagging finger judgment thing. No, I said playfully. But, to actually do something like that seriously to a child, wow. It's got to be. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I mean, if you're a young child, when you were talking about 6 or 7, you still are at the age where you haven't quite gotten dreams and reality and your thoughts straightened out, and to be taken to a place like that by an adult. And then, be open to really disturbing dreams and thoughts and, what is God? You're supposed to love God, but if you don't, you're going to be punished and there's a hell. I mean, it's enough to really cause children, a lot of fears as they're growing up. It's a game changer for a kid.
I think it's worse than that because I think it gets to a point where it's so confusing that when you're trying to rationalize it, because the kids start with the premise, it's true, the parents told me so, right? So they're not going to question that. But then they're going to say, well, I'm supposed to love God, but I'm supposed to be afraid of Him at the same time, which is incompatible.
Yeah.
But I think at some point the kids just say, well, fuck it, I'll just follow whatever instructions I've been given, because the more you think about it, it doesn't connect. There's a dissonance in there somewhere at some point.
It's like
if you're in a small town. And as Bub said, if it's a low-budget horror house and it doesn't take, what do? Take them to Cleveland? To a big... Do you then go to the bigger city and really give them the fireworks demonstration?
You don't really need to go to a horror house in Cleveland. Just Cleveland itself, you're usually pretty good to scare any kids.
If I was a child psychologist, I'd be there. Although those parents probably wouldn't take their kid to a psychologist. Maybe they would. They feel the devil has gotten. Maybe I should be an exorcist, a child exorcist.
There we go.
And move. I see a business. I see a business opportunity and a T-shirt.
That's what I love about you, Nancy. You see a business opportunity in everything Christian.
I either see business opportunities or a good T-shirt in most of these things. So, thanks, Bub.
Well,
Bubsy,
check out our merch store.
Yeah, that's right. How prevalent are these horror houses? Because I'm seeing them really close by now. I've been to Bellingham, which is right across the border here in the northwest of Washington State, and they don't quite have a horror house, but they had what they call trunk or treat, where basically they park all the cars at the church and they open the trunk and the kids go from car to car to do trick or treating. And of course, at the same time, they're passing all these messages from the church, right? So, how prevalent is it down south where you guys are?
I mean, where I'm at, it's not too prevalent. I mean, last year was the first time I ever saw one of these things happening where I live. But if you go to like the Bible Belt, I'm sure it's way more pervasive.
The Bible Belt is not the entire U.S.?
No, actually, it gets worse when you get to, like, okay, so there's the Midwest, there's the South, and on a line in between, there's the Bible Belt.
And then there's Texas.
Yeah, let's not jump into that can of worms. We don't have the time. And now all of our Texas subscribers are like, fuck these guys.
You want to scare people in Texas, you just give them pamphlets, tell them to vote for, what's his name, that politician, Ted
Cruz.
Ted Cruz, yes. That's right, vote Ted Cruz. No, give up. So I guess what the church is trying to do here is essentially do some kind of a captive audience to really bring the kids, instead of having the kids going from house to house, they're going from car to car, and you have that captive audience that you can really instill the message you want. Let's not forget that what they call that perfect age for 4 to 14 years old is where the kids are all going to believe pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. Try to teach them about a horror house at 16, 18. The kids are just going to look at you and say, "Are you kidding me? And this is a joke, right?"
Probably.
Well, most religions are that way, though. You got to get a kid by the time they're 6. And then you get strange people like us. It doesn't take, but for most, you've got to implant that before the brain really starts to develop. Mm-hmm. It's got to get into those deep recesses of the primitive brain.
She said the brain has to develop, and she had that wishful look in her eyes when she looked at me. I was like, "Oh God, I wish his brain would develop." You totally tell. So my good Lord Bmillzebub, on your show, what kind of other guests do you? I mean, you've explored the whorehouse, but what kind of other guests do you guys have on? Besides ranting on the Catholic Church, of course.
I've got this show I do called Apostate Interviews, where I have. It doesn't always actually have to be an atheist. I've had pantheist or two on my channel. With exception of people who have been atheists their whole lives, which I've had a couple of guests who fit that. The basic rule to come onto that show is that you have to be an apostate from some religion. So, typically, pretty much all the pantheists I know count.
So how come we've never been invited? Thanks a lot, man. I thought you were a friend. No. Just kidding.
You're kind of putting me on the spot here, man.
No. You're.
That's what I do.
This show is a perfect reason why you haven't. No, we understand. Maybe not Kevin, but the other two of us do.
Exactly.
So do you? Yeah, maybe not Kevin. That's right. Blame me again. So you feel your message is going out there, or you feel that you need to put some bigger horns on your profile picture for people to follow you?
I mean, I wouldn't argue with a little more growth. Really, who would? But I mean, the fact that anyone watches my videos at all, I think, is awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate anyone looking at it.
Well, let's hope we can bring you more listeners. I sure hope. At least maybe one more, because we have like 3 listeners anyway. So at least maybe we'll get one more. So what's coming down the road for you on your show? What's coming down for the Bmillzebub channel?
Later on tonight, I'm going to be interviewing Kyle from the Utah Outcasts.
Oh, yes.
And this isn't on my channel. It's on Godless Cranium's alternate channel, Alignment Unknown. I'm going to be playing a little D&D, but as far as what I'm going to put up Monday, I haven't the foggiest. Got a couple of days, right?
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly. Not a problem.
Yeah, you never know. Something interesting can always turn up at the last minute. Procrastination does have some benefits.
Do you feel, going back to the horror houses, do you feel that kids that fall for that never really get out of it? Do you think it's a permanent trap, or... I mean, could we qualify it as child abuse? I would say so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, trauma. I mean, look at it this way. You're taking them through this literal house of horrors, which is what hell is said to be, and you're traumatizing a child in a very literal way. I mean, that kid is probably going to have nightmares for however long. I definitely think it's child abuse, and it's probably honestly even worse for the kids that were involved in the house I went to, because, so we haven't gone over this yet, and I think it's really interesting because I don't know how typical it is of other judgment houses, but, I mean, at the start, a bunch of kids at a party drinking, doing drugs because, well, of course that's what teenagers do.
Yes.
Every last one. And, one of them gets saved at the party because, that's what happens. But, 3 of the kids die, and starting out, they're, it's going to be weird saying this, appropriately aged for the character, like 16, 17 year old kids playing those initial parts. But I noticed very quickly the, further on into the narrative we got, the younger the kids got.
Ooh.
Until we're actually in hell, and I'm hearing what has to be 4, 5, and 6-year-olds wailing and screaming.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's weird. Why would they do that?
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, why?
Well, because, like you said, his target audience seem to be, I think you'll agree with me, they seem to be going younger and younger, right? If you bring in a bunch of 14-year-olds, I don't think you're going to have the same impact if you bring a bunch of 6-year-olds, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, although the actors can say, the ones doing the drugs and dying, which, that doesn't really happen, but anyway. You can say, you see what's going to happen when you're a teenager, you might get into a party, blah, 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 but then the message, as they further dig along, they attach their identity to it more.
Kind of goes into the subconscious a little more,
exactly.
Subtly looking at they're getting younger and younger and younger.
Which is kind of odd, because doesn't Christianity and evangelical have that age of not the age of consent, but the age of responsibility, where they're actually responsible for their deeds at this point?
Oh, I never was involved with evangelical Christianity, so I'm not totally sure about that, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. I know in Catholicism it's based on when you go through confirmation, so
yes.
8.
No.
Like, you understand what that means.
Well, the bad thing, I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking a child can go to the movies and be really scared. Some kids love it, but a kid can go to a movie and get really, really scared, and maybe even, be disturbed and have nightmares. But generally, they get over it because the parents and other adults and their families, explain to them the difference between reality and fantasy, and they're comforted. But in this case, you have as you were saying, Bob, the adults, who are supposed to be, the loving support for these children, they're the ones that are leading them into this PTSD environment.
Yeah, the kids are seeing this. Yeah, and their parents, and I think true, and the parents are like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah, they're reinforcing that fear rather than comforting them, being like, "No, it's going to be okay." It's like, no, it's not going to be okay.
Yeah, unless you're going to be.
You smoke a joint, your eyes will explode, just like in that.
Yeah, you either believe and go to church and be a good boy, or girl, or this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I actually kind of made an analogy in my video, like where young kids are concerned in movies. There's going to be like a psychologist or something like that on the set, and if a kid gets too upset, they can talk to them, get reassurance that, it's not real. It's just a movie. It's okay.
Yeah.
But with this, it's, oh no, this is very real and you need to be very afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of funny because you would almost need some kind of a club that would say that this is rated PG-13 or this is rated R, for restricted.
Are there any websites, Bub, where where they have a horror house display or explanation or whatever, where you can go and take a peek, or are they pretty much underground and don't want the publicity of them to the outside world?
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty of websites out there. I can't say I've ever really gone looking, but I mean, the churches that hold these things advertise. I mean, there was a banner out in front of the church that was holding the one in my town for a couple of weeks before it even started.
Mm.
So they advertise it. It's not like a BDSM dungeon where it's a closely guarded secret.
That's next door. If you take the door on the left, that's when you get the BDSM dungeon.
And more likely than not, you'll find the pastor down there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no. It's a pretty messed up concept, and whoever came up with it. I don't mean this literally because I don't advocate for violence, but should be taken out behind a woodshed and beaten with a garden hose.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you should. I'll totally advocate for that right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because right here, we're starting to see these kind of effects coming across the board here in Canada, and for some reason, it seems to be the evangelicals. I've never heard of Catholic horror houses or anything like that. Although I'm not saying they don't exist. I've never heard of it myself. But right here in Maple Ridge, if you take the little bypass, on the way to Mission there is, right on the corner at the light there is a church. I forget the name of the church. But often they have a display. They display the town of Radiator Springs from the movie Cars. Right? And they have cars, and they put big eyes on the cars that are parked there. But if you pay close attention to the town, you realize, it says, oh, there's the gas station, but on top it says, Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
And Jesus saves, and this and that.
I saw the story on that.
Right off the bat, they're doing this kind of stuff. And of course, if you're a kid, you really like those big cars with those big eyes, and you got to be pretty young to do that. What does it really say about a religion when you have to be passing your message in subtle ways like that? Because you can't really just say it out loud. You have to actually, put it in a piece of cheese and feed it to a dog, in other words, right?
Why can't they just do mini golf?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm kind of questioning your definition of subtlety if your idea of subtle is a big yellow banner with the word Jesus saves on it.
Well, but it's in the town of Radiator Springs, so the kids don't see Jesus save right off the bat, and neither do the adults. It's only when you pay close attention to the town and the decor do you see the subtle messages in there, right? So, the Radiator Spring Church, all of a sudden, right beside the gas station and the tire place and whatever, right? So, I think it really says a lot about the church itself and what state it is when they have to do things like that to bring new believers, because you can't sell this message to adults anymore. You just can't.
Well, I mean, technically you can, because for some reason there are adult converts, but I think the most disgusting tactic used on adults is going after them while they're grieving, kind of like
yes, I agree.
What Ray Comfort did to Richard Dawkins.
Ray Comfort, I love it. Banana Man Ray Comfort, yes. Yes, we're seeing his ministries up here now, too. Living Waters, yeah, they're up here as well now. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much, but I really appreciate you being on the show with us today. But the mic is all yours, my friend. Be shameless. Plug out your show. If people want to learn more about what you do, where can they find you?
All right. Well, I appreciate you all having me over on your show.
You say that now, you might regret it in a few minutes.
And you can probably hear my neighbor mowing the lawn right now. It's like 40 degrees and he's up. But I'm Bmillzebub. For now, I'm making once a week YouTube content, unless it's like a special show. Mostly I go after the Catholic Church, and again, my what I consider the flagship show on my channel is Criticisms of the Catholic Church, where I pick a doctrine, go through the catechism, read up on it, and tear it to pieces.
Fantastic. So send me the links.
Sounds like fun to me.
Send me the links to your show. We'll put them on the notes for the show, and hopefully we'll send you some more listeners and all that. But in the meantime, before I let you go, I got to have you say, "Hey, this is Lord Bmillzebub," and I took a left in the valley.
Hi, I'm Lord Bmillzebub, and I took a left at the valley.
And that was Lord Bmillzebub.
Oh, fun guy, nice guy.
Yeah, interesting guy. And
terrible topic. Terrible topic.
Yes, and it's kind of funny because it's out there, yet doesn't seem to be very much known about it. But it's one of these just subtle things in the war, if I can use that term, the war for the soul of the population.
I wondered if those horror houses have to have a city permit to run, or whether they can just because it's
church property. It's a good question, right?
Yeah, whether or not they should be allowed to have a permit.
Well, I mean, especially it's usually done for one night, or maybe
that's
nights, right? Not the same thing. I find it astounding, and I can understand, that you can have a religious conviction, but even the most fervent religious believer, to see the fear in the eyes of a kid that you're causing, and not to reassure that kid later on, says, no, it's just a story.
I mean, whether it's one night or 5 nights, the trauma is still.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a pretty terrible thing, and it's one of the most underhanded, disgusting tactics I think the church can come up with, as to attack kids at such a vulnerable age, to scare them into compliance. You're trying to scare the kid into
I know, they turn into
Jesus.
Republicans. It's terrible.
Oh, yes, indeed. Turn into Republicans. It could be worse, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they're not voting yet. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies, and thank you to Lord Bmillzebub for being on the show, and thank you for listening. You can follow us at leftofthevalley.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at LETV Podcasts. You can send your email to left@valley@outlook.com, but send your complaint to Nancy on the 3rd floor, but beware the incoming knife. What else am I missing? Give us a 5-star review where you find us. It helps us and helps others find the show. You could be like our friend Freethinker215 and become a supporter on Patreon/LETV. There's much, much more behind the scenes you guys don't get to usually listen to, but they do. Anything else I need to add? No?
No, I don't think so.
Next week, our old friend David Fitzgerald comes back. We love David. He's one of our favorite guests.
I need to get reading.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll be talking about time shards, and we'll also be talking about Moses, I think. And I'll have to remember. I'll have to look at the conversation. And we'll have Jeff Cohen from FAIR talk about bias in media. And we'll also have the Brazen Atheist. And of course, around December, we'll also have our Christmas special and our end of the year look back at
Too
the
fast.
year that's gone by already.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time just flies.
I want to rewind to summer and do it again.
I'm going to blink and it's going to be my wedding.
Yeah. And then you're going to blink and you're going to be old and gray like me. Oh.
I'm glad I don't have to worry about age.
No, well, not everybody's immortal like you, Nancy.
That's right.
Thank you so much, ladies. Until next time.
Fighting this problem, religion is a disease. It comes from culture, only true on a regional scale.
You're supposed to make love to you, Mike. You know that.
Yes, you told me.
I'm not going to be making love to a microphone, but...
For the next 2 hours, it's her lover. She has to treat as such.
Some people might get jealous.
She's shaking her hands like, oh my god, I can't believe this. Nancy, you get back to your line of cocaine there, we'll be fine.
I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that thousands of children are raped by priests, and since they're holy men of God, they get away scot-free, and the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money too much. We know that they love the kids, but how the fuck can we protect them while they planning to molest them? We teaching them to respect them.
Fuck that.
The system is broke down, working backwards, and the only action or tactic I plan to practice now is to attack them. The parties of God's hands are bloodstained, millions of murders by believers, and they're all in God's name. And let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that many atheists are told to be quiet. You're not alone, speak your mind, time to let it be known. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen, I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith, and unsubstantiated claims, that's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an